Kia ora whānau, and welcome to another episode of Get a Job and Get Healthy with the Costas Enterprises. I am your host, Alex Costas, from Costas Enterprises. And today's post is going to be in regards to one of the blog posts I've already published. This particular one is in regards to social media. Okay, I just want to cover off, is your social media presence stopping you from getting the job that you deserve? Now, the reason I raised this is I have a lot of people coming to me asking questions like, hey, I did everything you did. I made the CV, I did the star examples, I thought I killed it, but I still didn't get the job. And when I reviewed their profiles, I noticed there were some instances where, just based on their social media presence, it wasn't portraying what they were trying to portray when they're actually representing themselves for a job interview. So I figured I'd cover it off. This probably will be quite a quick one, because it doesn't need to be said. There are some basic things that people do understand, and some others that basic things that people don't. What I do want to say though is all of this information is available on my website, which is the Costas Enterprises website. So costasenterprises.business.blog. You'll find all of my posts there. You'll also find links to my social media. Please feel free to go and follow. Leave me comments, anything basically. Same as this podcast. I really appreciate people that are listening to this podcast. And I just want everyone to know that I have also started, and I probably will start documenting and talking about this a bit more. I am actually starting to try and increase my passive income. I am literally starting this from the very start, so I may even do an episode about this very shortly and just try to basically cover off what it is I'm doing, what is working, what isn't working at the moment. One of those of which is starting a t-shirt business. I know, sounds very interesting given that I am a guy that is not usually very designer savvy. The links are all in my bio, so feel free to check that out. Just by coming to my website, you'll be able to find everything else under the Contact Us on the homepage. And I would be I would actually appreciate if anybody did email me as well at doncostas@gmail.com. That's DON for Nike, COSTAS@gmail.com. Discuss the episodes, discuss just in general anything if I can help you. I just recently started up on Twitter again as well, which is an interesting experience. So feel free to contact me, hit me up, direct message me, all of those fun things that social media allows you to do. Nice little segue there, right? Segue. We're talking about social media now. So you may or may not be aware, but social media has changed the way that we apply for jobs. Now, I'm not just talking about LinkedIn, okay, and those sorts of platforms. I also want to cover off the platforms like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and even TikTok for all those, dancers out there or, cosplayers that want to do funny videos. Now, most of you know that LinkedIn and the way that it's intended to be used is to show off your professionalism when you're applying for a job. And you should be aware that some employers will also look at other accounts like your Facebook, your Instagram, your Snapchat, your Twitter, your TikTok. Just let me repeat that. Some of your future employers will be looking at your accounts. Now, the post and the podcast comes across a little bit negative, and I just want to stress this, okay? Be mindful of what it is that you're posting and what your privacy level is set at for the things that you post. Okay, now I work in the tech world as well, in my sort of 9 to 5 job, and the amount of people that I have had to deal with that do not really know much about their privacy levels or things like two-factor authentication, all those sorts of things, and it scares me. It scares me a lot, actually. And when I tried to think about how these people were applying for jobs and weren't getting anywhere, despite following all my advice, and in some instances me even creating CVs and helping them with star examples, knowing that these would normally get other people jobs, when I looked into the social media, I could tell why. Now, if you've got a planned out LinkedIn profile, okay, it shows off your capabilities, it shows off your skills, it can show you how you can connect with people and the projects you've worked on, the businesses you've worked for. So on paper, you are actually represented as a professional with a can-do attitude who gets the job done, is able to network, all those sorts of fun buzzword things that come into the thing. The flip side is that your future employer, they can also do a search for Facebook or Instagram. And if your privacy is not set correctly, they could see that you actually live that party lifestyle. You go out drinking on a weeknight, you post how much you hate your boss, or you're hankering for the munchies after 4:20 p.m, obviously, not a.m. You're sending out 2 separate messages. One saying you're all business, the other, not so much. So why is this appointment? Why can't I just live my life, Alex? Well, look, you can live your life, okay? This is not a episode to say never post anything. In fact, if you do that, you're more likely to dissuade everyone because it shows that you're not social. However, all I'm saying with this podcast, and if you want to, you could basically turn off the podcast now after the thing I say, but I'm going to give you a bit more insight. But effectively, just be mindful of what it is that you post and the perception that you are creating. So think of this for an example. Have a look through your social media accounts, but don't look at them as, oh, these are the memories that I had. This is what I did. Oh, look at this amazing place I went. Think of them and judge them as if you were hiring the person that you're looking at, the version of yourself. Now, I know you're probably going to be a bit biased because you'll be like, oh, well, look, this person's obviously a party worker, means they're good at network relations. But if you see that post and it was on a Wednesday and you then talk on Thursday in your Facebook, for example, or you tweet out that, you hate having hangovers at work, and a future employer sees that, if you were that employer, would you want you to represent your company in that positive light? Try to think like an employer when you're looking at your social media. Now, I've previously mentioned in other blog posts and also in podcasts that I have worked for the New Zealand government, okay? Now, with the government, we have a saying, and it's very simply this: don't do anything that's going to end up on the front page of the Dom Post. Now, if you're unaware, the Dom Post is what we used to call the Dominion Post. Basically, New Zealand's biggest national, nationwide newspaper. Now, I know, yes, everyone's going to be like, oh, Alex, printer's dead. Well, think of it as you don't want to be on the front of CNN.com or BBCnews.com, if you know what I mean. any decision that you make or represent, it is reflective of your employer. So the last thing you want to do is create an image of yourself that would harm your employer. So, for example, you can be like, what do you mean, Alex? Well, let me break it down a little bit more. Let me try to get it into your heads a bit. If you were working for an employer like Coca-Cola, you wouldn't go on TV say Pepsi is better because, well, despite being wrong, you're actually working for Coca-Cola. They are your employer, and you are bringing them into a bad view. Now, if you are listening to this podcast and you've previously worked within government, specifically within New Zealand government, you will know that usually we all have the same, what we call code of conduct. So that is the way that we are supposed to behave. Now, our code of conduct basically states, for a lot of New Zealand government employees, it will state something along the lines of you have political neutrality, meaning, you are, no matter how many different people you may work for, be it, Labour or National or the Greens, or if you're in somewhere like America, it would be the Republicans versus the Democrats, you would have to represent the same. You'd have to represent the same membership as if you were working for either one. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to agree with what each party does, but if you ever got asked by the press or anything else like that matter, then you are supposed to be like, look, I have political neutrality. I have no comment about that particular aspect. Now, you have to think about that way with your social media, especially if you are looking at applying for a future job. Now, the employer, they shouldn't use the social media perception as a reason to stop you from applying for a job. And in New Zealand, officially, they can't. Okay, they can't go, well, we looked you up. That's why we didn't interview you, because we saw that you were, stoned out of your brains on Instagram last week. By law, they can't officially dismiss you that way, because then they're holding prejudice. However, what they can do is they can change their mindset and say, well, however, this person may not be at work because they go out weeknights, or because this person is unlikely to be on time due to the nature of their extracurricular activities. And by doing that, the perception has already been created. And it's a hard thing to shake. But like, Alex, so what do I do? I mean, I still want to share my experiences with my friends. I love my lifestyle. I've got good people. I do all that sort of fun stuff. Well, look, you can still post whatever you like. However, if you are applying for a job and you do live that lifestyle, or maybe you have lived it in the past, and by past, I'm not talking like 10 years in the past. I'm talking, if you've done it in the last, 5 to 10 years, and, you spent the last 5 years drinking every Wednesday, smoking every Thursday, or maybe you go out with your friends and mention that you're out all night, every night for 5 days a week. To stop your future employer, from seeing it, just change your privacy settings. Okay? Make your account private and only viewable by friends or friends of friends, if you need to do friends of friends. So if you don't want your account to be searched by anyone, just be mindful that the way that you portray, your future employer will be able to see it if you keep your privacy settings open. And then they will have that perception of you before you even sit down. Now, I can attest to this. One of my jobs that I I was already working in. We had a new boss start up for our branch, and before I'd even met the person, I got singled out in front of all of my co-workers because this person had known of me because of a family member that person was that person knew, and that family member was dating one of my friends. So you can imagine my first introduction to my new boss is him going, "I know some stuff about you," and me going, "Huh?" When we talked afterwards, while there was nothing bad, he did mention that I know you're a bit of a drinker. And I was like, how do you know that? And sure enough, I had my profiles completely open. My Facebook, I didn't have Instagram at that time, but I definitely had Facebook. And I used to, and I've covered this in my other podcasts, I used to be a bit of a drinker. I used to host things like pub crawls, which is, for those that don't know, it's where you basically go to a new pub every 30 minutes and have a beer, and you do 12 of them. I used to do these sorts of things, and I used to be proud about it. I was like, I was young. But when that happened, I learnt a very valuable lesson. I knew that even though I was already employed at the job, now I was in a secure job. I had no way that they were going to be able to get rid of me. I was a good worker. I didn't do anything bad, and I was never breaching anything like our code of conduct or our employment requirements. However, the simple perception of this manager now having of that of me meant that I was coming in as perceived to be all the time drinking, probably going to be considered to be drunk at work, or at the very least hungover. It wasn't a good feeling. I would strongly suggest to people, look, if you take nothing away from this episode, please at least make sure that you just change your account. Make it so it's private. If you post anything, check your privacy settings, especially on Facebook. I know these days they've changed it so that you can post public, you can post private, you can post so that friends of friends can see, and all these other fun aspects. Just be mindful that you are representing yourself. Let me write that again and repeat that again. You are representing yourself. So if you are applying for a job, lock it up. Like they say in Wedding Crashers, just lock it up. Because you want them to see you as your LinkedIn profile, not as your Snapchat profile or as your Instagram profile. It would be really appreciative if anybody that is listening to this podcast do pop along to my website. Feel free to add any comments. If you think I'm totally wrong, hey, discuss it with me. Email me, doncostas@gmail.com. I hope everyone has a fabulous day and keep doing what you're doing. I know that it is a Thursday over here, so single ladies' nights. If you do go out, please make sure that you lock your profile if you're applying for any jobs. Just say. Have a great day, people, and good luck. Alex Costas, signing off.